to the police. All around, especially in town. No one couldn't walk alone. Town was like a battle zone. But nowadays and so.
Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. Well, as you know by now, it's Monday, so you have the TTPS joining us in the form of Inspector Michelle Lewis. Good morning to you, Inspector.
Good morning to you, Ruckus.
Welcome back.
And Tobago. It's a pleasure to be here, as usual.
How are you doing this morning?
I am good in Jesus.
What are we discussing this week, Inspector?
Today we are discussing carjacking, stolen vehicles, and larceny motor vehicles. So we use the word carjacking because it's a common word to a lot of people. But really what it means, it simply means a vehicle being stolen from somebody, either with use of force or threat.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So it's a common term, carjacking. But in law, when you say carjacking, you really mean robbery, larceny vehicle.
Robbery, larceny vehicle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is when the vehicle is stolen with you by the vehicle. So some form of threat or violence or something like that. Yeah. Right? Either they tell you have a firearm or they threaten to hurt you if you retaliate or something. So that is robbery. And the larceny is when you would have parked the vehicle somewhere and you return and it is no longer there. So no fear, nothing like that. But the vehicle that is a valuable asset or a valuable item has gone missing.
Yeah.
All right. So shall we start with prevention?
Let's start there.
Well, yes, we can
Can we
start
start
with
with prevention?
prevention.
Let's start with prevention.
So we have this morning, we have some data from the Crime and Problem Analysis of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And in that data, we saw just a little increase. So last year, for the period January the 1st to the 22nd of February 2024, as compared to 2023. So 2023, we had 260 vehicles that were stolen. And for the same period, we had 263.
Okay.
So just a slight increase, right? But nevertheless, it is something, larceny motor vehicle, robbery motor vehicle is an offense that we see happening a lot still.
Yeah.
And, you know, the intent of the police, of course, is always to prevent the offense from actually taking place.
How many, out of those 260 from 2023, how many of them were recovered?
I can tell you for 2024.
Okay.
For 2024, 72 of those vehicles were recovered. So in
far?
So far,
Okay.
for the 2 months, well, not for the 2 months, so far. And yes, there are instances where we would get a vehicle that was stolen in a previous year, and we now recovered it. So for example, yesterday, the Stolen Vehicle Squad did an exercise, an intelligence-led exercise in Southern Division, where they recovered a Nissan Tira hatchback motor vehicle. They went with a search warrant and executed it at the home of a straightener and painter. Of course, when they saw the vehicle, it did not have the registration number on it, the identification number, of course, but when they did the search, the database search with the licensing information, they realized so that person is now in custody and the vehicle has been conveyed to stolen vehicles.
Very good. It's interesting.
And that is a matter that occurred on the 9th of March, 2023 in Central Division in Port of Spain.
Very good to hear that, and especially it's interesting you mentioned that where it was found, because one of the things that we've noticed many discussing is, for want of a better expression, the term they use, chop shop, which is there are shops which are set up to deal with these stolen vehicles. Have you also been able to discover these throughout Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, the exercise that took place yesterday is one such because he's a straightner and a painter, and he is now in custody, and the vehicle has been conveyed to stolen vehicles. So those are some of the things that the police will do in relation to identifying those types of places, doing intelligence, gathering that intelligence, and then, of course, going with the relevant documents, warrant.
All right, so how about the length of time? Because it's interesting, you would have mentioned that, all right, so this was stolen last year, we found something the following year. Is this the timeline that we would say is the standard, or is this because of an ongoing in-depth investigation?
So it depends. Different. So I can give you another example. On Friday morning, officers from the International Agency Task Force conducted an exercise in Port of Spain. And during that exercise, a vehicle that was involved in a shooting in Northeastern Division on the Thursday night was recovered in Port of Spain Division on the Friday morning. That's a white 80 wagon. So, and the recovery time, of course, for that vehicle was less than 24 hours. So it really depends on the vehicle, the investigation, the intelligence, and all that comes to the police.
All right, I want to get back to the prevention. How do we prevent people from stealing our vehicles?
So one of the most important things to do is to ensure that you have a good GPS system installed in your vehicle. We know that that is not foolproof to say that somebody wouldn't steal a vehicle, but it gives the police a better option in relation to the recovery of your vehicle. Once your vehicle has that tracking device in it, and the device is actually working, which means that you had installed it and you have checked it and you know that it is working.
And the people who take it didn't disable it.
And so you have more than one in some cases, so that even if one is removed from the vehicle, you're still able to track your vehicle. And that information really helps in the recovery of vehicles. It really helps. Additionally, we have reports where persons have parked their vehicle, I would use the word park, left the key in the ignition, and went a short distance away. And of course, observe that somebody now is driving your vehicle that worth $330,000+. These are recent incidents I'm talking about. Recent incidents I'm speaking about. So people still do that. People still leave the vehicle. So, for example, you may be checking your mailbox, checking for your mails, and you leave your vehicle running, and you check in the mailbox. You might use the key to open it, whatever the case may be. And so that is an opportunity for someone with ill intent who has been observing you, or the opportunity just presents itself because of carelessness or lack of vigilance, and these incidents happen. We are not ignorant of the circumstance and the situation in Trinidad, and so it's important that you're always observant and vigilant to your surroundings and what could possibly happen.
Inspector, it sometimes feels like damned if you do and damned if you don't, because I've seen situations where people say, all right, I'm going to do the right thing, switch off my engine to go and open my gate to then try and drive into my house. And in the period of time when they switch off the gate, they open the gate, they go on inside, and they come back in, they have to start back the car to drive in. And in that moment in time, somebody pounces on them same way, seeing an opportunity. So how do we balance that?
Well, and you will also see where persons would have driven into the vehicle, into the yard using an automatic gate.
And so, people still come in either way.
So these instances, we know that there's a high prevalence of crime and criminal activities that take place in Trinidad. What we try to do as best as possible is to assist with the mitigation of that or prevention of it. It is not that it will always happen, but at least to make yourself a hard target is what we are aiming for. So we are not saying that if you do all of this, you are sure not to be a victim, but the likelihood of you being a victim will be reduced considerably. So you, for example, having CCTV cameras at your home gives also that level of evidence should something happen, regardless whether it's a vehicle or something else, that the police can use in relation to prosecution of someone with an offense. So for the offense of both larceny motor vehicle and robbery motor vehicle, the charge, well, if somebody is convicted, I should say, will be 10 years imprisonment if it's summary, and if it is indictable, which is high court, it will be 15 years imprisonment. So it is not a light offense, it is actually a serious offense because it could be heard in the high court, and so, but it is a bailable offense.
All right, so after let's say you're in the unfortunate circumstance where your vehicle is stolen, what would be the next step?
As soon as the vehicle is stolen, if your cell phone wasn't in it when it was stolen, would be to call the TTPS. So you call 999 in the first instance and you make the report. And so a flash or broadcast will go out to all police throughout wherever they're patrolling to pay attention to this vehicle, whatever, the color, the mark, the make and everything. Of course, then after you go to the police station and you make a report and you give some details, whatever identification mark on your vehicle, maybe it has a scratch on the bumper, whatever the case may be. Because a lot of times we observe that the vehicles that are stolen are very similar in color. Silver, gray, black, white vehicles that are common on the roadway. Tida, Nissan, Toyota, Aqua, exactly. So when you are driving a yellow vehicle, that the likelihood of that vehicle being stolen is very low. I'm not saying to go paint a vehicle in yellow, but I'm saying that the likelihood of your vehicle being stolen, because there are so many less vehicles on the road in that color, makes it a harder target.
Okay. I'm going to go and paint my car yellow.
Wow.
Try orange.
She just said do paint your car yellow.
Try orange.
Try orange. Interesting. Trying orange.
It's a pretty color.
No, it is a pretty color. I love orange as well. Very festive, to say the least, and it pops. So You mentioned, when we were talking in the beginning, you mentioned 80 wagons being recovered, Nissan Titas as well. You just mentioned colours. Are there any particular models that you or manufacturer brands that are stolen more?
We have the H100, which is the Hyundai vehicle.
Really?
Yeah, those are stolen a lot. And then the 2700, the Kia. That's the panel. Those are like stolen a lot.
I used to have a H100. No, I didn't realize that was a frequently stolen.
Yeah, it is. It's because you don't get the parts in Trinidad. So you buy showroom. It's manual, and the parts, they steal it like that. Farmers, everybody it's one of the vehicles that are high on the list of vehicles that are stolen. Either larceny or robbery.
What puts a vehicle on that list to say people want it so badly? Is it a matter of being able to access the parts and that kind of thing?
Right. So persons, if it has a lot of vehicles on the road or a lot of use of the vehicles and they can't get the parts, there's a market, a black market for it. Right? And so, as you mentioned earlier on, we'd have these places that would strip vehicles, change it around and that kind of thing. Those exist, as we know, in particular areas. And throughout Trinidad and Tobago, really, there's no area anymore that
I was going to say, if we know where it exists, we can't clamp down on it?
No, we have a lot of areas. And so the police, as I just indicated, stolen vehicles and different divisions, sections, and so are doing it. So, but still, the offense is still there. And it is, paying $300,000 for a vehicle and then, you park it and then you go to sleep, you wake up in the morning, it is no longer there. There was someone who I know parked a vehicle. Saturday night, woke up and it was not there. Around 3 minutes before the vehicle was stolen, and it was discovered on the highway around by Uriah Butler a couple hours thereafter. And a lot of times vehicles are stolen for the use of the commission of a criminal offense.
Yes.
And then they switch it. In other cases, when it is stolen, it is for the parts. So they were put in a particular area to cool down, to see if it has a GPS on it before they move it again and start to scrap it and do. So it's a trade that takes place, but you as the owner of a vehicle either paying for it still or have now finished paying for your vehicle and looking for a little space now that you can breathe financially and any vehicle becomes stolen. So it's really something that is really of great concern to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and how we can assist in that regard. So having a GPS in your vehicle, paying attention to where you park your vehicle, if you can prefer a secure parking, it is better. Consider the pros and cons when you are going somewhere and where you park your vehicle. Because sometimes the line nice and they want to park your vehicle absolutely nowhere to park, 5 streets down, but you need to go into this line. Consider the pros and the value that you're putting on these things.
Wow.
So we want to say thank you once again for the opportunity to be here. We thank you very much. We continue to remind you that if you see something,
say something.
Dial 999-555-800-TIPS.
Thank you so much, Inspector Michelle Lewis, talking to us this morning about carjacking, robberies, and stolen vehicles. And this is a conversation that we're definitely going to continue here on the Now Morning Show. So stay tuned. We have birthdays coming up next, and next week, Monday, the TTPS will be back.